we're going to talk about 1986, but it's kind of timely because they just put the Superstars on the Superstation special up on the WWE Network, which was from February of 1986 and kind of starts setting everything up, if you look at it, for what Dusty wanted to do that year, which was Crockett's record year in business. I know by his own deposition in a lawsuit. So if he was going to lie, he would have dumbed it down instead of exaggerated it. Jim Crockett Promotions grossed $21 million on just wrestling. And that's pretty much house show tickets and the occasional fucking closed circuit buy in 1986 alone, which in today's money, as they say, is somewhere around 50-something million, which would make a pretty healthy wrestling promotion today, wouldn't you think? Okay. But 86 was a record year for a number of reasons. Dusty finally had the team that he wanted in place. Starrcade 85 had been successful and had led to, obviously the Great American Bash in 85 that they just did in Charlotte had already got Dusty thinking, okay, we can do this. And then Starrcade, really impressed on him at 85, the idea that not only is business trending up, but we can get away with some things here and we can do more big shows. So just real briefly, I got the results from the February 2nd. It was February. We've talked about February 2nd, 1986 on a show. We did a deep dive on it because that was the day that just a typical day in February that drew, what did we come up with? 65 or 70,000 people to wrestling matches live all over the country just in that one day. Yeah. And Crockett was in charge of or affiliated with 3 shows on that day that drew 30,000 people. They did the Moscomania show in Hamilton, Ontario with Flair and Dusty and the Road Warriors that afternoon that did 10 or 12,000 people. Charlotte that afternoon, the Rock and Roll and Midnight in the main event for the title did 12,000 people and a sellout $100,000. First wrestling sellout for Charlotte since 1978. And then we went to the Omni that night and taped the Superstars on the Superstation special in front of 7,000 people that paid about $70,000 in the Omni. So, like I said, Crockett drew 30,000 people that fucking day. And the special was taped that night and then aired the following Friday. And the reason why it was special is because it was the first primetime weekday night wrestling event on TBS in all of its years and all of its history with wrestling. They had done the Saturday night shows, the Sunday night shows. They'd never been in primetime on a weeknight. And the ratings were so good at this point that's when Turner had suggested, hey, we can do a special. They didn't trust going live yet, which was probably for the better at that point. But they pulled out all the stops to try to make the NWA guys and the NWA brand competitive with Vince in their own way. Vince was known for celebrities. So there's, the interview with Shivani sitting down with Dusty Rhodes and Willie Nelson, because Willie liked Dusty and he'd do the thing. And Dusty, of course, loved Willie Nelson, but there's a star on the fucking program. And they did a lot of video pieces, as I recall, on Magnum, including riding to the Omni on his motorcycle like he's a badass, right? And they talked about the big show at the Superdome, the Crockett Cup. So on their primetime special, they're trying to let people know, hey, and the NWA is going to be a part of this big event, the Crockett Cup at the Superdome in New Orleans. That was a fucking pretty big deal at the time for a wrestling event.
There was another big moment from that show. Let me play that.
Whip him like a dog.
And on the wrestling side of things, they open up the show. Dusty wanted, that was when we're going to beat the Rock and Roll Express. Midnight beats the Rock and Roll for the World Tag Team title. To really get the program kicked off, we had done the angle where we dropped Ricky throat first on the racket, and he bled from the mouth about the same time as this. And that was going to air on syndication, and this is on TBS. He spent the past 6 months getting the Rock and Roll Express over the Russians and getting the Midnight Express over various combinations of Jimmy Valiant and Superstar Billy Graham, or Jimmy Valiant and Ronnie Garvin, or just, whatever. We had consistently won, except for the blow off at Starrcade, consistently won our matches, and we're next in line for the shot at the tag team title. So we do the match that night, which was our second. We were in the ring with the Rock and Roll Express twice that day for 20-minute fucking main event matches in 2 towns, 4 hours apart by interstate. And that's how they used to book it that way. We literally got out of the fucking Charlotte Coliseum at like 3:30 and drove straight to the Omni and got there 15 minutes before fucking bell time for the special.
Wow.
And, the sound bite is when I get jerked in the ring by Ricky Morton, and he's got my fucking belt, and he's about to get me, and there's David Crockett, whip him like a dog.
He's into it just like the fans. I mean, he's screaming like a fan on commentary.
Because I think he seriously wanted to see me get whipped like a dog. I don't know if David had yet figured out how to take me, but
Whip him like a dog.
What was going on around the Crockett residence? They're whipping dogs.
Oh my God. You should treat dogs better than that. And their little Harley says yes. But anyway, and that was also another famous quote, because there was that match. So the Midnight beats the Rock and Roll, and that set up our program with the Rock and Roll Express through spring and summer of '86. Most of the gate records and or attendance records that the Midnight set with the Rock and Roll happened during that time when it was hottest at first there. And he had that. But since we were the World Tag Team Champions, obviously the Road Warriors were always in contention. So he automatically, and then we'd start doing angles with the Road Warriors. And then he was brilliant the way he did it, because he had a lot of people involved with a lot of people. Even though they had a primary program, they had reasons to be mad at other people. And he shot the deal between me and Baby Doll to get Dusty and Magnum themselves, America's team, into it. So all that spring, we defended against all 3 of those teams, Road Warriors, Dusty and Magnum, Rock and Roll, plus a few others, and had some heat with all of those teams getting ready for the Bash. Then also on the special, the Road Warriors beat Ivan and Nikita Koloff. They were doing a feud over the 6-man title at that point, because Von Raschke was on the Road Warriors side from the AWA connection, and Khrushchev was on the Russian side. But they wanted to expose the Road Warriors and the Russians. And that's another reason why Flair worked with Garvin for the title on the show, and Dusty worked with Tully for the national title on the show, because Dusty wasn't crazy enough to give it. The hot match was Flair versus Dusty. And that's what was drawing and was going to continue to draw in the arenas. He wasn't going to give that away on free television. So he did the next best thing by Flair beats Garvin for the NWA World title. They have a great fucking match. And that's where David's other comment came in, when Garvin grabbed Flair by the fucking nose and starts twisting it like he's trying to take it off, and Flair's selling. David goes, "He's got him by the honker." And anyway, so they had a good match, but Flair got a win, and Dusty and Tully went to a 20-minute draw. So Dusty didn't fucking do a job, but at the same time, he didn't win the title. And then they did an angle with JJ and Tully and heating up the whole Horseman thing. So that Superstars on a Superstation special in February was really a precursor to what we would see all the blow-offs of that summer at the Bash. And they went through the Crockett Cup in April at the Superdome, which we've talked about that, which unfortunately didn't materialize gate-wise. Poor New Orleans at the time. But at least it's, it had a lot of talent together in the same place at the same time.